Hello guys and gals, if you're looking at the screen it says help people buy their first piece of art on Siesta Key. So let's reflect back to those early years where you attended art school or was your major in college and had aspirations of completing your schooling and everything would fall into place with your art career. Remember this fantasy? All you had to do is create your art and customers would flock to your studio and buy your art. Obviously, now you know it's not that easy. However, with an understanding of marketing, it could become much easier, realizing that art is an option and not a necessity. It requires some basic understanding on how to promote your art and obtain buyers. You see, your art competes with tons of other commodities in the marketplace, first for attention and ultimately for dollars, just like every item for sale in every store simultaneously competes for your art business. It just doesn't matter what type of business or industry you're in, whether it's automobiles, whether it's clothing, whether it's art, whether it's foo-foo, widgets, it just doesn't matter. Any business needs just two things, and that's traffic and conversions or buyers, period. Your art is no different. You know you've got your work cut out for you if you expect to make a living as an artist, and that convincing multiple individuals to buy your art on a regular basis is not an easy job. In my early art career, an art dealer once told me, "No art sells itself," and he's right. But that doesn't mean you hawk it like timeshares or used cars. Selling your art is not about tactical maneuvers or strategizing on markets, but rather about capitalizing on those moments when people are impressed enough for whatever reasons to stop, look, and maybe even ask you a few questions. You see, some of these people will be thinking about buying, so to increase the odds that they slip you cash or a credit card, you have to present and contextualize whatever art they're looking at in ways they can understand and appreciate, and transition them from lookers to owners of your artwork. You see, people like to believe that they're doing the right thing when they buy art, but since most of them don't know much about art, you have to help them. They need conviction, courage, and understanding because owning art is not easy. Take a typical customer like Joe, for example. Let's say Joe buys a piece of art. He takes it home, hangs it on his dining room wall, and several weeks later he invites Mary and Susie and Bill over for a dinner party. So the four of them are seated at the dining room table, wrapped with culinary delight, sipping fine wine, chortling it up, and swapping gossip, when Mary points to Joe's art and asks, "Is that new?" "Yep," answers Joe. "Where'd you get it?" asks Mary. Joe's answer has to satisfy Mary, Susie, and Bill. "Really?" says Bill. "Who's the artist?" Joe's answer has to satisfy now Bill, Mary, and Susie. "That's interesting," says Susie. "I've never seen anything like it. What's it about? Or maybe where's the location?" Now again, Joe's answer has to satisfy Susie, Bill, and Mary. Poor Joe's on the spot, isn't he? He sure doesn't want to look stupid in front of his friends, going out and buying art that he can't explain. Not only does he have to explain it, but he is like most people who buy art, he also wants to impress his friends and acquaintances with his discerning taste and sophistication. And furthermore, tonight is only the first of many times that Joe will be required to defend his art. For as long as he owns it, all kinds of people, many of whom know even less about art than Joe does, will ask all kinds of questions, and Joe will want to sound like he knows what he's doing when it's his turn to talk. Now, as silly as this sounds, it's what art owners go through, and one of the main reasons why so many people are afraid to buy art, that they're worried about being embarrassed by what others might think, say, or ask. Not only do they have to justify their art to themselves, but they also have to do it to anyone who sees it and has questions. You see, you must interact with your customer and tell the story on how you created that piece of art and what it's all about. The Joes of the world want to own your art, believe me, but they need your help first. You have to show them how to defend themselves, give them the ammo, the confidence, the protection they need to fend off doubts about whether or not they're doing the right thing if they buy your art. Now the good news is that most buyers need only the basics. You don't have to get complicated. Since most people don't know a lot about art, they don't need a lot of explanation. And here's the crucial part. They don't want a lot of explanation because they confuse easily. Consider, for example, the sentence, which is what my art's all about. My art is about palm trees and the Siesta beach. And as you can see with these photos of my art, that's exactly what it's about. So make it easy and simple for your customers to buy. This entry-level statement of palm trees and the Siesta Key Beach is clean and simple. It explains my art in a way that anybody can understand, and people who don't know much about art will go surprisingly far with that explanation. Suppose you have no basics. You have no idea what your art is about. It just happens. Well, fine. Then talk about what happens, what inspires you, how you start, your process, how you make it, what you use, how you know you're done, and so on. Again, keep it simple. For instance, say, I make my art entirely out of things I find while hiking in the hills or on the beach. Believe it or not, this is enough. You see, all you have to do is suggest, plant the seeds. The viewers will do the rest. They come to their own conclusions and, most importantly, feel confident that they understand the art, and they do in their own unique way. One thing to avoid, though, is being vague, saying stuff like different people respond to my art in different ways. Of course they do, but so what? Far too many artists use this cop-out, which does nobody any good. It leaves viewers wondering whether or not their responses are right, and it leaves the artist with no sales. People want a little structure. They want starting points. Then, when they respond, they feel like their responses make sense. Basic information also makes art harder to dismiss. It connects people up and gets them involved. Think of how fast you dismiss things as you go about your daily business, especially things you have no information or too much information about. You certainly don't want that to happen with your art. You want people who stop and look to stay stopped for as long as possible. Perhaps the most important key to selling your art, both literally and figurative, is giving people reasons to care. With all the other stuff out there for people to care about, why should they care about your art? Why do you care about your art? That's a great place to start. If you can convey and convince in a simple sentence or two why people should care about your art the way that you care about it, you make sales. I see plenty of great art by plenty of successful artists every day, and one characteristic that the overwhelming majority of these artists share is that they figured out how to distill their art down so simply and directly that even I can understand it. And sure, these artists are perfectly able to go deep when they have to, and they do all the time, but they know that the more people who can identify with their art on whatever levels, the more rewarding their art careers will be. So, I appreciate your time. Happy creating and selling your art. And one last thing before I sign off here. If you liked what you heard and desire some additional marketing tutorial video training, then go to this website Or if you're watching this on YouTube, just merely click the link underneath in the description area underneath this video. But go to www.inspirebluewavewebsiteblogtraining.com. Again, that's www.inspirebluewavewebsiteblogtraining.com. There you're going to find many hours of marketing training on how to market your art or crafts. So with that, thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next video or out on the beach.